If you were me, you do it different, right? The difference is I ain't trying, I'm just living life. And you could go ahead and judge me, say I'm crazy high. My grandma smoked a pack a day and lived to 85. And if you asked her how she did it, she say by minding her business. No denying the wit is inspired by what I've witnessed. Like so-called bosses spending fortunes on a mistress. Through the hard times, only one riding was the missus. Pete the morals were missing. What else is there to say, son? Guess you ain't had the character, so you portrayed one. Started pulling green out my garden, where's the hate from? Industry rats that wanna snatch up all the cake crumbs. See if they can stay at day ones when the day's done. I'd rather send these assholes to the rat hole that they came from. I speak the truth, I lift your mind before my time is done. Search for your soul and find the code you get the diamonds from. I got your heart stashed right under the lamppost. I'ma leave it there and roll some weed up where my man's ghost. It's no question that I ripped it if we click and bounce. The dedication added up, I got a grip to count. Let's count. I just want your money, cause none of this shit is free. Cause none of this shit is free. Longevity in the street, what's that to you amateurs? You probably don't understand and I ain't mad at you. Somebody got it all on camera. I was just trying to hide your manager right underneath the banister in stealth mode. Your health low, go for Metal Gear. We live this shit, you just playing until the level clear. Let me know when you graduate to the chaos. No days off, they just hating, they letting strays off. You better grind for the payoff too. They got these Rockefeller laws getting paid off you. TNT take the weight off and skate off. Ooh, you got made off. NYPD ate off you. A life is not for the emotional type. Been a while since we spoke, check the vocals I write. Here's the bad news first, the bad news first. The bad guys are winning and it's only getting worse. I got your heart stashed right under the lamppost. I'ma leave it there and roll some weed up where my man's ghost. It's no question that I ripped it if we click and bounce. The dedication added up, I got a grip to count. Let's count. I just want your money, cause none of this shit is free. Cause none of this shit is free. We keep on, we celebrate life all night through the morning, yeah. We keep on. You take this shit for granted, but you miss it when it's gone, yeah. We keep on, we celebrate life all night through the morning, yeah. We keep on. You take this shit for granted, but you're missing when it's gone. Yeah. I got your heart stashed right under the lamppost. I'ma leave it there and roll some weed up with my man's ghost. It's no question that I ripped it if we click and bounce. The dedication added up, I got a grip to count. Let's count.
Yo. Good? Yeah, that's good.
People start flipping like heads and tails.
The hip-hop writer is a creator, composing understanding words of cultured brilliance, powering a rebalance of the elements equally, pages of rejuvenated reaffirmation, simply the almighty leadership of insightful craft work that stands to build through any confrontation born to be. Yet, his daily duty is as a journalist that questions properly, uses his ears for the good to filter the real. And as this art decays by dilution, he concentrates the best again and again, exposing it in the print. Today's journalist and tomorrow's historian, he listens to share. Here is that necessary attempt, executed again and again and again. Peace, man. This is the Power Right Show on S.STREET Media. This is your brother, the lone low life with the home-sewn garment, the Boricua with the build, the true and living stepping in score, Sunya as Allah, a.k.a. Skillustrator Low. And we're on S.STREET Media, the evolution of media, where every intrigue will have its own show, every incredible thought will have its own episode, and every timeless insight will be archived. You know that I'm going to say this every week because I'm like some kind of, I was going to say I was like an extinct animal. I'm like an extinct animal, you know, but the only thing is that my breed barely exists, you know. So if I say that this is the only show in history of a hip-hop writer element that I, a veteran of 20 years, pioneered, there's not that many people in that club, you know. I think that some of the best writers in hip hop, they're not really, trying to take that pen creatively, or merging the two, making that piece creative. And I'm sorry, let's eliminate some of the people that's not in this element. Let's throw darts though, because today's boring, right? If you take a trending topic and then you lift it from the pages of said Googlealia and you put it onto your page and then you put your byline there, you're just a whore. You're a trend whore. Look at that. You took it from the trend and you placed it here and you put your byline there. You're not really doing hip hop writing. You're not creative. I even had issues with a certain person though, because I said that I came before them. That's all I said. I said I came before them. And that became an issue with them. Now time is a problem now? Now time is a fucking issue. You know what I mean? Now they want to be Einstein and rewrite time or some shit like that. You know what I mean? I've been doing this shit since 1994. 1994. In 1995, I published that this is an element. In 1995. I think it was in March. If it wasn't March, it was probably the next month, But either there. Definitely want to salute everybody that's really hip hop, journalists that really cover in the fields that they are. You know what I mean? Piece of the earth, wisdom body. You know what I mean? Someone that is transplanting and trends into articles. But at the same time, she's actually a real writer. She's actually trying to change and mutilate what is the trash that's out there that trends, but also trying to make a worthy article out of it, though, adding research, adding some ideas to it, adding some work to it. And her potential is not even known. She writes as Ime in the Source magazine and in their online, But there are other people, that do hip hop journalism on a higher level, right? Like Spicy Sugar here at S.STREET Media's House of Hip Hop podcast, which is just beginning, is brand new, just like all these shows here. And so there's a lot of people doing real journalism, And I would like I'm just throwing this open recruitment here. Open recruitment, you know what I mean? Take that time to let the world hear not just what you think about someone else's work, but make that work that you write on someone else's work be a work of art. You know what I mean? Change it. Style it. You know what I mean? Put some stylistics on that. You know what I mean? Make it your own, Hey, I have a segment here. It's just real quick insights. You know what I mean? And there's not too many, though, but they are quick insights, The first one is a question that I had was given, like a real question. And it was, are the best MCs of this decade, this decade that I'm calling the Invisible Renaissance, are the artists of this decade that you consider the best? This was the question posed to me. Are they the best because they really are able to hang with all of the other decades, really the 90s we're talking about? Or are they just the best of this decade because the 90s legends and whatnot and the greats from the 80s, the founders of the 80s, that they're not around? So the best MCs of this era, they get to be big fishes in a pond that is a little bit smaller. You know what I'm saying? This is the question that I was given. And I said, I'm like, here's where the journalist sells out, because the leech, right? Let's give back that vocabulary I had. The leech is making his money off the artist today. So he's always going to say that today everything is the best. Everything is great. But I had to be honest. I said, yeah. I said 100% yes. The best MCs today would rival and be worthy of any other decade. I think we played Starvin' B coming on in this show. That guy, as a performer, as a lyricist, as a consistent music maker, qualitative music maker, and album maker, he could rank with the 90s. Like, I would spend a week saying, yo, I would get into an argument with my brother back in the 90s if Starvin' B was out. I'd say, yo, we got to get this. You know what I mean? And Starvin', if your cassette was out there for like $3 in Discorama, after I put the $3 label, I would have bought it, definitely. Put it in my pocket, though. You know, because Sam Goody, they used to have those broken cassettes, and they put them in the side there. I used to take those with me. But I think Starvin' B, everybody I consider essential. A lot of the Triple Darkness crew, like Ray Vendetta, Cyrus Malachi, a personal favorite, Napoleon the Legend, Spit Gems, Shazil York, even though he hasn't had as much work as I want him to. And of course, who I consider really the most prolific, Brownsville Kai, you know what I mean? Rock Marcy too. I think that all of those albums rank in the 90s. I think that some of them, like Kai and Rock Marcy, could not exist in the 90s though. Because it's a style and technique that needed to evolve into just their sound. I'm not even talking about the way they rhyme. But here's what we're missing though. A lot of these 90s MCs that we love, they either rank up and aren't spoken about, and they're not included in the conversation. Like, for example, KRS-One. KRS-One has 2 albums in this decade, and these are 2 excellent albums. They're not cheap. They're not weak. They're not lazy, and they're much better than nearly the majority of his 2000s output. I'm a big KRS-One fan. And he has about 30 albums, and I got all of them. And the 2000s are a real drought for him. It's a real drought for him. He became a horrible beat picker and everything like that. He had some songs with great concepts. And so he would show you that he could MC. But it wasn't until the late 2000s that he started to really come back really hard. Like with the album that True Master produced, the Metaphysical. I think that was what it was called. It had the big obelisk as the cover and everything. I think it had like almost like an imagery of the Olmec heads, you know. But the 2 albums that KRS-One has this decade are not short, but they are lengthy and they are strong. Like, they match up and they add to a absolute GOAT candidate collection. But you know, 90s legends. Look, people like we mentioned Raekwon off air. Raekwon hasn't rhymed with the detail of, say, he did Cuban Links too, but he still shows he has those techniques. He still has those ideas. He's giving a lot of battle bars. That's the problem. But when he gives like real intricate detail, it would give guys a run for their money. Cool G Rap, a lot of times he's just doing an occasional verse here or there. His own solo album was 1 verse a song because he had so many features. So a lot of the MCs of this decade, they don't really get to compete with the 90s. You know what I mean? The guys that are still doing it, that have that level. We're still waiting for Rakim. You know, who is that mystery god, right? Who is that mystery god? We're still waiting for Rakim. And I think if Rakim had the right music, he still could, really could dominate. So I said Rakim, KRS, and I always say Rakim and KRS-One because they're the pioneer GOATs. You know, a GOAT is a collection of the catalog, skill sets, all the skill sets, not just one that you goddamn like. And also, in this case, pioneering, because the writing formats, the content, all of these things, though, Rakim and KRS-One pioneered. You know what I mean? And that's why, like, when we talk about GOAT battles and stuff, if they're not in the first 2, then you're not really doing the argument good. You know what I'm saying? Everybody else will depend on the catalog that they produce. And that's why when Nas produces a subpar work that shows he could still rhyme but isn't quite as good, like Nasir, we get a little disappointed because MCs like Nas or Ghostface, they're on the verge of GOAT level. Like, not GOAT level, they're GOAT candidates, but they're on the verge of making it absolute. Because imagine if a guy like Nas has a classic in 3 decades. I mean, that's something that Rakim has done, I think. No, Rakim hasn't done. No, he's had the 80s and 90s, but he has multiple classics. Because I consider all the Rakim, Eric B. and Rakim albums, all 4 of them, I consider them classic. Because if you're a collector and you don't have them, though, your collection sucks. I see faults in your work, in your collecting. Don't tell me you don't have Don't Sweat the Technique. If you don't have that album, don't say because he's the god and he was dancing with naked bitches in the video. Remember we used to hear that? And I was like, too many white girls. I said, those are Puerto Rican girls. Those are Puerto Rican girls. They were way too thick. I know a girl on 42nd Street, 43rd and 5th that looked just like that. Don't stop talking that shit. Nah, but Don't Sweat the Technique, Juice, that album was loaded, man. The Punisher, Teach the Children. The most didactic, preachy sounding song, but it didn't come across like that at all. Yeah, that's the album before. The third album, Mahogany, right? So I consider those first 4 Rakim albums classic. Like, you gotta have the first 4. And I think that the first solo album you should have. That's near classic. Because it has classics on it. You know what I mean? But if Rakim or KRS-One made an absolute classic in this decade or after, like in the next decade, they would be, there's no contest because their pioneering is too far and above. You know what I mean? It's too far and away. But let's say Ghostface comes out with a Supreme Clientele 2 that is mind-blowing, which he has the capability to do, I think. Let's say Nas rhymes with the kind of production and the kind of focus for content and song concepts that he always has. He's got it in the bag right there because he has so many stellar works, But here's another thing. This is what, when I say I've been doing this is part of the next quick insight, and it's only the second one. It sounds quick. I don't think it's quick. I'm going to have to do it quickly because it's my whole life, right? It's my whole life. I've been burning bridges, getting kicked out of shit, not used, niggas biting the style. There are people that make 6 figures in magazines right now, right? That run magazines. That's the clue. That run magazines. They used to call me up, Yosunians. That shit you wrote there. Could I use that? Use what? Could I use that style that you use? Like, cause we're a clique together. And I said, yeah, nigga, use it. So I've had my Grandmaster Kaz moments. You know what I'm saying? I'm fucking Grandmaster Kaz. You know what I mean? And but the thing is this, right? Here's another question. And it's for everybody to ask though. And I'm saying this because I said this thing and I was interpolating Sean P when he said he was the brokest rapper, I was like, yo, I'm the brokest writer you ever read. And I said, G, because I'm the God. I was like, G, And let's say there are principles to this hip hop shit, right? Do you find it realer? This is a question I was giving it. Do you find it legitimate and real if the guy kicks such real shit after he crossed over, sold out, got his millions, and now he kicks that real shit? Versus the person that didn't really cross over, has struggled his whole life, and still kicks that real shit. I'm telling you, there are guys making classic material right now. They make classic material. But they don't live in the poverty that they lived in. You know what I mean? They don't live in the poverty that they live in. So it's different when they talk about the righteousness, the righteous principles and stuff like that. They haven't had that difficulty of making the decision for the righteousness when they were in that trouble spot. They got out of the trouble spot. See, and that's why people, I hear students ask me this question. This was a student of mine that asked me this question. Because those students, those young people, they're not rich yet. They're not living set yet. And the decisions that a great MC that is a positive role model is expecting you to make, they're not in a position to make that decision so easily as that rapper is rapping about. You got your songs and shit. You got your shit out. You know what I'm saying? People liked your songs, and this is luck of the draw. You know when people go, what do you mean by luck of the draw? Redman, that's luck of the draw. Redman is the most offensive motherfucking rapper in the universe. He's one of the most offensive MCs that you could listen to. Has all the techniques, is grimy as hell. He's not supposed to be this popular. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of other guys that is just like that don't have it. And you could say it was skill level, but you know that the industry don't like skill. People that listen to hip-hop, this is the only music. This is the only black music where people don't like the foundation of its music. A lot of wordplay, a lot of words, a lot of skill with language and stuff. People that actually listen don't like that generally. You see, when people listen to R&B or soul music, they like a lot of like wailing, they like a lot of loud singing, they like a lot of power maybe, right? They'll like if they like funk, they'll like the beats and stuff, right? Because they like beats, so they like the funk. But a lot of people that like hip-hop, they don't like rhyming. Because if you play in Black Thought, they go, that's boring. You play him another MC, they say that's boring. I've heard people tell me Redman's boring. If you don't listen to any of the words, everything is boring. You know what I'm saying? Like if you don't listen to any of the words at all, like you don't bother to pay attention at all, everything is boring. You know what I mean? So it's a real question, the time that you become real. The time that you become real is worthwhile. It's why when we see Gandhi, right, he had his stuff. And to show that he was really about this, and he realized that, wait a minute, because you know that people try to say Gandhi's racist, right? Because he was in South Africa and he was like, wait a minute. They kicked him off the train. They said, y'all treated me like Gandhi was the first. He was the first guy to be in that video and say, you're treating me like a black person. That was Gandhi. Gandhi was the first nigga to be in that. They threw him off they threw him off the train, and he was like, listen, I'm of the British Empire. I'm a lawyer. How dare you? Because he was part of the merchant class. He's a higher class in the caste system. But here's the thing. A lot of black pseudo-scholars try to diss Gandhi, but it's what you become. It's not what you were. By that aspect, the father, Allah, who founded the nation of gods and earth, he's still a Muslim. Oh, shit, he's still a Christian because that's what he was born into. It's what you become in the trials and tribulations, the greatness that you become. And in his case, Gandhi realized the error of his ways. He realized that, wait, he's not dealing with humanity properly. But how did he was able to show that he could not deal with the same riches that he had? So he had to let it go, and he got rid of the European clothing. Then he got rid of the Indian clothing. Then he started to just sew his own stuff. But the rappers that tell us shit, they don't do that. They don't do none of that stuff. When we see a RZA and we see him build, we can respect it because their early records were all about hidden righteousness in there. And they could have flopped any moment with those concepts. But you got other guys that they was talking some bullshit. And now they want to tell us to stay in school. It's the way. Fuck out of here. Right? It's hypocritical. You know what I mean? And then they have these records that are like, yo, I found my way. I've done these things. It's a little different. There's not a sacrifice there. So it might sound incredible, but there's no sacrifice there. And that's on you to figure out. That's on them to figure out. You know what I mean? And we see it in all the fields, though. They blew up. They continued to sell out every goddamn turn. And now these niggas get on a fucking a forum to talk about helping the youth. You should have helped the youth, though, before you were telling them to dance to that fucking song in that fucking piece that you wrote. Most of the shitty rappers that became a foundation and the inspirants, I say inspirants, it's a made-up word, right? It's kind of like aspirant. Like, I'm trying to say something that's stringent on the eye. And so, like they sprayed it to you. They made up their own inspiring people, and they sprayed it in your fucking eye. And now when we see all these, like, abominations, right? Fruit-flavored abominations that we see now rapping is because a lot of people sold out and were writing things like that. And they said, oh, no, I'm doing it for black people. I'm keeping the thing forward. You were leeches. And now we see all of the blood-sucked zombies that are out there. This is the level. No one took a stand, though, and said, you know what, this guy is doing some sellout stuff. It's not a black or white issue. It's a gray area in there. Well, let's talk about the gray area as journalists, right? But instead, this is why I was, not in these magazines. Because I was saying, wait a minute, didn't this guy just talk some bullshit right here? People we always got to hear the story of we go, oh, Master P, he made a empire. We got to salute the man. The black man made a black empire. He made it off shitty music. It's blood money. That's blood money. Let's put as much stupid songs as we can. We fill up the CD to 80 minutes. Every record will be 79 minutes and 22 seconds. It'll be filled with a lot of junk. And we sell it, and we have these people playing music all the time. Niggas think that they're the first ones to make a flood. That's Master P's hustle. And it was shitty music, though. These pixelated ads and shit. Remember that shit? But you couldn't talk about it in the magazines because those ads cost $30,000. So if I criticized them, then that was going to be my job. And it was my job. It was my job lost. You know what I mean? But on that segue, I'm going to go to something else, right? We're going to go to, it segues perfectly because it's been on my mind. So we're going to go to my favorite segment, media mutations, right? And it's not a word this time. It's a concept. Okay? It's a concept that we're looking at, and I call it revisionist history. So revisionist history is like a sub-feature. It's got to be a sub-feature inside media mutations because niggas be revising their fucking bullshit sellout history every day. I put on YouTube and I go through videos and like, oh, this nigga's real now. He's real now. Oh, look, he did it for the children the whole time. Okay, let's check it out though, right? So the media mutations, right? In this revisionist history. Let's go through some revisionist history though. Apparently on, I think it was Sirius XM or something recently, right? No, this didn't make any news or anything, but a student of mine, one of my brothers, he sent me the clip. Sent me the clip from Sirius XM. It didn't make the news because everybody believes it. And it was Flex. It was Funkmaster Flex on the air. And Flex was, you know what Flex said? He said, I can't do his voice, though. All I could do is that annoying laugh that almost ruined Big Pun's whole debut album. You know what I mean? It almost ruined the whole thing, you know? And Flex said that he has never, ever taken payola. Yeah. I wrote a feature in 2005 about Flex taking payola. And they never sued. I had to stay up until like 3 a.m. in the Source. At the Source magazine headquarters, and to make sure that anything that we write doesn't get us sued, doesn't get the magazine sued. You know what I mean? Yo, in 2005, if the Source magazine got sued in 2005, everybody goes to jail automatically because they was all felons. I was the only one without a case. I was the only upstanding citizen working at the Source. You know what I mean? As far as men that worked there. I was the only one. The females, that was another story, right? Right? So the thing about it was this, right? Flex said he never took payola, and I tried to explain it this way. I explained it this way to my student. I said, listen, today the payola system doesn't work that way. You don't bring, when Capadonna, wasn't it Capadonna who said that? I think it was Winter Wars. He said, take these to Flex. Tell them it's real rap, right? Man, by 2000 they had a system, a computerized system that told you what to play. And if you played music even as a DJ, you were picking from the selection that they had there. Let alone if they actually forced the select order, because the order sometimes counted too. That order counted too. And I'm saying this because I interviewed the director of programming for 105.1 at the time in 2005. I interviewed Drew Ha and Buckshot, and they told me you cannot walk in with records then because they were like, what are we going to do with that? You know? So, and I interviewed countless other people, right? So we exposed Flex. I wrote it all there, right? He never mentioned the piece on air. Never talked about it. We never got sued. None of that. None of that stuff, right? So what happened? For a guy like Flex to say he doesn't take payola is literally a pedophile that is locked in an old folks' home and says, I never touched young kids. There ain't no young kids there. There's nobody that's going to ruin your shit there. You know, you know what I'm saying? There's no way to do payola that old school way inside the radio station today. That's done in marketing rooms way above because hip-hop's pay grade is so much higher. Back in the days, they used to throw, if guys were like, yo, I need 20,000 to do this, they would throw a couple of G's at an underground rapper because they had the money. Atlantic and all these places, they had money to burn. This was a new thing. It was making way more money, and they didn't really know what the lyrics were about anyway, so let the kids like it. That's what they're going to do, right? That's not the way hip-hop is now. The hipsters have made Genius.com. They explain the shit to you, or they get the rapper to explain the rap to you. The labels, they get guys that are good assets. So they're going to get Drake. Because Drake was an actor that showed up on time for his Degrassi show. He's going to show up in time to the studio. He's not going to flake. He's going to do his due diligence. And he's going to be a good investment. The nigga on the corner here, that rhymes real good, that nigga's not an investment. And we have all types of reality to show certain brothers that's legends is not an investment. Because if they find the next Old Dirty bastard, he's not an investment, though. If you know anything about Old Dirty's career. I mean, you know, RZA deserves, like, an award just for finishing that debut album from Old Dirty. You know what I mean? Rappers don't show up to stuff. You know what I mean? Look at it. You know, a lot of people don't even know our problems. You know, don't ask me. Ask DJ Toshi how difficult it is to hook up a MC to come here at the show. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, it's like we're navigating through a desert and shit like that. They forget how to go places and shit. They forget when, you know what I mean? But the thing about it is that this revisionist history, I was like, and it's not the only one that I was hit with, so it had to be a whole segment, though. So look at this revisionist history. He says he never took payola. We got to Maury that. And we go back to the tape, and we find, though, that he lied. Flex is the father of payola, okay? He's the father of payola, though. You know what I mean? He was taking so much payola that it was affecting records and stuff. You know what I mean? And it's a way to hide not only the payolee, Flex, but also the payoler, the guy that was paying. And if you think those late 90s, they weren't paying to get paid for play, then you also believe that Jay-Z gave you Hot Summers just because he was Jay-Z. Hey, he bought those Hot Summers. Get the fuck out of here with that shit too. You know? But here's what really sparked this revisionist history, right? And it was funny because Lauryn Hill was getting trashed while I see Wyclef on the air. You know? If you need me to tell you about the shady stuff that Wyclef has been embroiled in, then, you know, that's another story. Do your Wikipedias. Do something. You know what I mean? Send some email to TMZ or something like that, you know? I remember I watched that show, Nashville. I watched that country-ass show, Nashville. It was realer than hip-hop shows because they showed you the way labels are. They showed you all that stuff. And one of the label guys that was screwing the artist was played by Wyclef. I said, gee, you know, and playing himself in the role of will be, you know what I'm saying? Are you serious? Wyclef is playing a shady label man? But they get to go on Hot 97. They get to do a revisionist history. They get to show how they're doing that. And what was the first thing he spoke about? How he made a mixtape and that he had cannabis on it. Oh, you know, so like, oh, wait, I didn't fuck up his career, though, you know, because I called him and he did a song on my shit. But check this out, right? Lauryn Hill was trashed by Robert Glasper for being, you know, Robert Glasper of August Green, which is the group with Kareem Riggins and also Common, who released a stellar album. I think it's one of the best. But Robert Glasper said that Lauryn Hill was taking, Robert Glasper said that Lauryn Hill was a diva. She jacked them out of their money when he was working for her, and that he believes his peoples that were musicians for her, that she didn't write those songs, right? Here's the thing about it, right? And here's the problem, though, right? This is, and everybody's like, oh yeah, it must be true because he said it and stuff. When it comes to the black woman in the industry, they've never really gotten their respect. They've never gotten their ability to work as artists without getting a lot of other hell that even men don't get. If you don't know that, then you're not looking really well. You know what I'm saying? And if you think you're in the industry and you don't see that, then you're not really in the industry. You haven't been anywhere. You know what I'm saying? I was at magazines, though, where other female editors were told to suck their dick right there. You know, and I'm being as crude as possible. Black women don't like to be called bitches, though. Well, I saw them called bitches all the time. You know what I mean? All the time. And they had to eat it up or just hoop. And you know what a lot of assholes would do in the industry? You call a woman a bitch, and then, you know, the black woman stuff comes out. That's what they call it. The black woman stuff comes out, and they get angry. So now they get into they just instigated the cliche of the black woman. So now they could just look what's going on with this woman. She's being the typical angry black woman. And then when she settles down, they just wait till she settles down. They just wait till she settles down. You okay? You know, because I know you went through a phase there and shit. We call everybody insults here. But when they were saying it, it wasn't that way. It didn't come off that way. You know what I'm saying? It didn't come off that way. But they wait for the whole tirade to, yo, I didn't mean it that way. It was just kidding and shit. You know what I mean? So this kind of dehumanizing goes on completely. And when we look at Robert Glasper associating that with, the good journalist is supposed to say that's really what we call wisdom knowledge. You may know she became a diva and is a pain in the ass today. But that doesn't mean that it definitely is true that what she was writing back in the day, she didn't write. Just because now you want to believe other people that are your peoples. You know what I'm saying? When people get sued for stuff, it doesn't mean that they were guilty of the crime. You know what I'm saying? When they get sued for stuff, it means that they have no way of fighting back. Here's some things to think about when it comes to labels and stuff. When an artist is gigantic like Lauryn Hill was going to be and was emerging to be, and here's why I say they knew. You know, like you could say, oh, nobody knew Miseducation or Lauryn Hill wasn't going to blow up like that. I disagree. Sony Columbia saw Fugees blow up. And if you ever went to a Fugees concert, you have a great time. In 1996, you'd have a great time. Because I know, I was there. I saw the Fugees perform the Friday the score came out. This is the Friday that the score came out. Niggas was hooping and hollering when, you know, Wyclef, he starts playing riffs from classic songs. Like he'll do, you know, Big Daddy Kane song, da-da-da, all that kind of shit, right? We got hooping and hollering. But the part of the show that people demanded that was not on the itinerary, that froze people, that made us go like, yo, this is a next level thing we're watching, was the absolute demand and request for Killing Me Softly. That was not supposed to be performed. You could see Wyclef and of course Pras, though. I'm not going to say Pras because everything he always looks dumbfounded. Like, he always looks like he doesn't know what he's doing because he doesn't, you know what I mean? But they look like, the band and everything, they look like they wasn't ready. Like, yo, okay, everybody, all right, well, let's play this. So they may have been ready after a couple of concerts, but not that first time I saw the Fugees. And when she sang that Killing Me Softly, the whole place became quiet, though. Kind of like when you read about Miles Davis doing a ballad. It became quiet, it became shut down, and everything froze up. You know what I'm saying? Everything froze up, and you were like, wait a minute. This is something special here. It's something different. Wyclef, being interviewed, said that he didn't know about the times of Miseducation, which he's right. He couldn't speak on it, but he knows that Lauryn Hill wrote all her verses, though, right? I also know, I will guess that she did not write Pras's verses, though, which they should have learned from NWA, you know? Ice Cube wrote some incredible stuff for Eazy-E, and it was stellar. That's how you work it. Fuji's needed to learn from that. But notwithstanding, though, because that's Monday morning quarterbacking for like, what, 20, 30 years ago, right? The thing of 20 years ago, right? The thing about it, right, is that a lot of albums have been made by ensembles, and then the label already knows, listen, they are directing the creativity that is going on in this room, so we are going to give them the name on the top, produced by. This was not, we're not looking, we don't even have to look at hip-hop for precedent. We could go back to soul and funk. Barry White could not write music. A lot of people don't know that. But he produced and arranged all of those albums. And it was his vision. Why? Because he knew how things should have sounded. He was directing the mold of how it was going to go. James Brown, if you read Fred Wesley's autobiography, right? One of the drummer, right? No, I'm forgetting Fred Wesley. Wait a minute. What's the name of the book? Fred Wesley. I think it was. Yeah, he played trombone. Why am I calling him a drummer though? Fred Wesley was in that horn section, that famous horn section for James Brown's band, and he wrote a book called Hit Me Fred years ago. This is like 05, 06, and it was autobiography, and he talked about how James Brown didn't really know he didn't know music that well, like how to write the notes or how to fill out the spaces and things like that. But it was things like being in a hotel one day and writing down on a piece of paper. He wrote down, "I'm black and I'm proud." He just wrote that on a piece of paper. Brought that to the studio, and then that's what they work with. So when we talk about produced by, we're talking about who lends the direction of the whole project. Look, if we saw the live album from Lauryn Hill, we know that she doesn't play guitar great. She doesn't. She had very few notes and chords that she was playing there, right? She wasn't Jose Feliciano with the shit, But lyrically, it was on another level. Some of those songs like, Mystery of Iniquity and stuff like that, that was killing any man out there. That was hanging with any MC at that time, even today, that hangs. Very little has surpassed those verses. But what I'm saying is, though, I say that Sony Columbia knew this was going to be big. That's why they invested in Santana. They invested in all these musicians to be part of the songs, right? And when they say produced by Lauryn Hill, it was supposed to be an umbrella effect. She guided this whole project, and so it'll be produced by, right? Just like a lot of times, though, a guy will bring certain records, and he'll be produced by him, but somebody, maybe the engineers put that shit together because he didn't know how to extract the samples, right? Even Kool G Rap says that he told me personally that some of his early records, he felt he produced them just as much as Marley Marl. Because he was bringing the sample saying he wants to rhyme off this part here and there, but they don't know how to do it. So it's really a co-production credit, if anything. So when we say like somebody's just a complete fraud, we're letting the artist who already is emotional get emotional about another artist that has become emotional. Because if you think that Lauryn Hill and her reactions as a diva and being an asshole with people, coming late to shows and doing shit like that, if that's not a reaction to the hatred she has for the industry, then you need to go on Revolt TV and see what a joke it is when it's something that's made by Puffy has an event honoring Lauryn Hill. It's a fucking joke. A guy who has peddled more commercial, degrading music and lesser music to the masses, but then decides to air an event where Lauryn Hill performs. Imagine performing at some shit like that. You know what I'm saying? This is what it's like being an artist in the industry, where the fakest nigga has the money to prop you up on the forum, prop you up on the stage. So when people say you don't know the ins and outs of the industry, then you better know that that's what they're talking about. And it plagues on a woman. It plagues on a woman, let alone just the artist that just sees a lot of whack people. Go look back and look at interviews with Phyllis Hyman and see the beef that Phyllis Hyman used to have with whack R&B singers they used to put on. She sounds like an MC, because you know why? Because Phyllis Hyman could sing it all. You know what I mean? Everything. Phyllis Hyman had everything. She was, what would they blame it on? They would say, oh, Phyllis Hyman, she's bipolar. She was taking meds and stuff. That's how the industry, you know, does it. You know what I'm saying? But if you go back to those interviews, you'd be like, wow, you know, she was really making points, you know? Now, where Phyllis Hyman was dead wrong was when she was saying that she didn't find herself beautiful enough, because that was crazy. I was like, bugging. But that's my crush, Phyllis Hyman. Though. So let's move on, though, before this whole show just ends up me, you know, just talking about Phyllis Hyman. But let's end this on a rewind. I can't mention fake niggas without the pretty hiccup, right? So you remember that when DMX, the audio came out when he was saying that he was upset at Jay-Z, saying that they rolled different. This is about 2011. He said that, listen, Jay-Z's got a lot of talent, though, but he does things only for the money. You know what I saw in comments and people's ideas was like, well, I don't see why an artist should be focused. Artist should be focused on the music. But DMX sounded like a crazy old man. Again, a crazy old man, right? But he was saying that it's about something else. It was about the principle of the music, and that he lost respect for Jay when he became Def Jam's president. I'm going to leave this for research for you and the revisionist history that goes on. You know what I'm saying? Because now Jay-Z is the people's billionaire. People's billionaire. You know? There's such thing as a people's billionaire. You know? So the thing is we love him. Now we love him. And it goes back to one thing about this concept I was talking about in the quick insights and what I've been talking about now, the realness. It goes back to the Andrew Carnegie dictum versus what I've adapted as the Balthasar Gracian dictum. You know? People go Carnegie said, spend the first third of your life getting all the education you can, the next third making all the money you can, and the next third giving it away to worthwhile causes. That's what niggas think they doing. But the truth is you spend your whole life, though, doing number two, taking a shit. Taking a shit on everybody because you're just collecting money. And when you abuse millions with your thoughts, with your ideas, and then you give to thousands, what does that mean? So people go, oh, Andrew Carnegie gave the New York City their public libraries. We wouldn't have them without him. But you better do your research and see what type of bloodsucking this guy was on. Because when you see all these people with their Illuminati theories, though, they're just talking about Carnegie because he owned all the shit that they're talking about. You know what I mean? All the roots of a multinational corporation that we see today, how does the U.S., how are they able, what are the models to bloodsuck other countries outside of your own people here in the U.S.? Go to Andrew Carnegie. Go to the Rockefellers. So think about this when you think that's the way to go. I would prefer a more Gracian dictum where it says spend the first act in conversation with the dead, meaning reading books, studying. Then spend the second act with the living. Be with the people. Learn from the people. Go out with the people. And the second one was, he said, spend it philosophizing. And I saw it as like creating. Spend the next third of your life creating things, changing things. But on that, though, let's look at how things are revisionist. Let's not just believe things just because there's a guy that's still standing. You know, in American rugged individualism, we respect the person that's still standing. But it's usually one that's standing on top of everybody else. That's why he's still standing, you know? But there might be a little bit of time left to go into some music and stuff, some hip-hop albums that I didn't get to. There was, you know, and I'll get into that if I can, though. But I do want to spend some time, though, because on Remembering Imperfection, Aretha Franklin. You know, a lot of people as a writer, and just as a young brother, Aretha Franklin has so many memories. You know, I immediately quoted this. It was a gospel song, right? And she said, "Echoes from the past I hear, old time singing, gladness bringing. from that lovely land somewhere as I travel on life's pathway. Know not what the years may hold. As I ponder, hope grows fonder. Precious memories flood my soul. That's a gospel song. That's from the classic Amazing Grace album that she did in 72. And I have so many great memories with Aretha Franklin's music, you know what I mean? As a child, when you're a child, right? And when you're young, even in the Puerto Rican household I grew up in that was trying to shun salsa and like more blacker forms of music, my dad was obsessed with, my pop was obsessed with doo-wop music. And doo-wop music is really just popped out R&B. You know, so like when I grew up and got older and learned music really well, I say, hey, Pa, you know, you just listen to black music anyway and get them tight. You know what I mean? But doo-wop music is really just an emphasis on the vocalization and with a much more pop melody on the backdrop. You know what I mean? That's why it lends itself to a cappella so much, because the melodies were so basic, you know what I mean? To keep it simple, you know what I mean? And black music is really in the history of North America. Black music recorded in America is really basically two things that merge together: a person's soul and their own unique interpretation, which is called their improvisation. So the soul is the core, that blues, and then it becomes something profound and artistic when jazz comes along, because the improvisation comes in. But the offshoots of that are when the blues and jazz merge into jump blues, and then you get rhythm and blues, which is basically more simple versions of a lot of those jazz pieces and a lot of more form for the artist to go into the song. So basically you have a focus from the player to the song itself. That's how things become more pop. You know, I think like today when you hear a pop song, it's not a type of genre. It's basically the more something is more jingleized in your head. That's what makes it pop. You know what I mean? And the artists that can blend quality musicianship are the ones that are, well, we used to respect, like a Michael Jackson and things like that. You know what I mean? But when we look at, you know, the career in the memories of, you know, that first memories of Aretha Franklin was that I liked doo-wop, but it was those ballads. So it was Motown stuff creeping in to the oldie station, you know, when we used to play CBS FM, right? And the oldies creep in, and you hear Motown songs, but then you hear an occasional one that is out the box there that went commercial, like an Aretha Franklin song. You know what I mean? So I have so many memories with like my older singing the lyrics of I Say a Little Prayer in the beginning. You know what I'm saying? And so many other good memories. But as I got older, a lot of people, some people that know me know this, but when I write, I don't write to hip hop music. I don't write things to hip hop music. I listen and analyze hip hop music when I write on the music. But when I write creatively, and most of the creative pieces, most of their foundation and core, that creative core, I'm listening to mainly soul music, you know? And Aretha is one of those 10 people, you know what I mean? So that always get obsessively repeated out of those female vocalists. And I think to guide people to a reference that was good, I thought it was a really nice piece in the allmusic.com by Mark Deming. He wrote Remembering Aretha because it gives a nice retrospective, you know what I mean? But one of the things that I saw in somebody's retrospective, you know, they're more commercial, these retrospectives, right? And one of the errors I found, like, we call her the Queen of Soul. Indeed, she's the Queen of Soul. But a lot of people say, like, oh, she didn't really get, wasn't making it right until she hit with Respect, and then she blew up in 1967. If you actually follow Aretha, and I'm one that has all 40-plus albums, I got them all. She has a ton of incredible work before I Never Loved a Man album, where Respect came out and all those. So those two first album gems, I Never Loved a Man and then Lady Soul, before that, she has countless work. But the thing is, right, as some background, right, because I gave you some background on what soul is, but some background on Aretha, when she was signed, I'm gonna give you that GM. What was it? It was a famous A&R man, John Hammond from Columbia, that signed her, and he signed a lot of people, but he had also signed Billie Holiday. So when he was looking at her, what do you see? Well, Aretha's first album was in 1952 at the age of 14, and it was a gospel album. And if you hear that album, you know she could sing anything, anything. There's no, you're 14 and you sing like that. There's no limits. So what happens though? He had signed Billie Holiday, but I think, me personally, he probably was looking at people like Ella Fitzgerald, the core, Billie, Ella, and Sassy. Billie Holiday, Ella Fitzgerald, and Sarah Vaughan. When you look at Billie Holiday, you see someone that could has soul. But when you see Ella Fitzgerald, you saw someone that could reinterpret nearly every single American song. If you look up Ella Fitzgerald, she sang all the songbooks. She sang about 10, almost 10 songbooks. I think it's about 10. I have them all, but I haven't counted them recently. From different composers. So these are the whitest of whitest songs. You know what I mean? Like At the Ritz and shit, things like that. But when she sang them, they was no longer that. So then you also have, along with those two, you have Sarah Vaughan, Sassy. And Sarah Vaughan probably, I'm going to say, has more range than Aretha. If you listen to her music, she had operatic range. You know, all you have to do is do your research. And she sang albums that all these three artists here, these legendary jazz vocalists, they have something in common with Aretha, is that they all had the chops. Aretha had that skill. So I think when John Hammond saw her, he was like, let's get her singing albums where she's doing all these classics. Let her sing the standards. See if she can make her own classics off that. And when people dismiss it and say she didn't have a hit until then, what I'm trying to say is those albums from 1952 to 1967, she doesn't have hits. She has some classics in there. There are some songs in there, at least 20, 30 songs in there that will blow you away. Songs like Skylark, songs like Johnny. You know what I mean? She sang, oh man, I got to go through them. It's just too many. There's, here we have, check out some of these old ones that I consider classics. You could, you know, pause this and go to them. These are before the hits. Today I Sing the Blues. Everybody sang this. Ray Charles sang this. Everybody sang this. Nobody Like You, All Night Long. She was also singing soul standards, but they weren't really blowing up, but they were exceptional. So she sang, before she blew up with Respect, which is Otis Redding's song, she had sang Otis Redding's Try a Little Tenderness. And her version is also incredible to me. But it just didn't hit. You know what I mean? So her catalog is classics all over. You know what I mean? And if you go into her catalog, you're going to see those classics, and then you're going to see in the 70s where musicianship really, really hits a peak in the late 60s into the 70s, because what happens is the artists understand how to merge the gospel, the jazzy flexibility of the singers without making them go jazz and making them be interpreters, but also understanding how to do the Southern blue, the Southern soul, and what Southern soul became. And I think when that happened with Aretha, then she started to get the hits along with the classics. But see, Aretha has classic albums in that time that are almost awkward in this day and time, like Amazing Grace. Man, I don't deal with no mystery God. But I be going to church. I be playing it on Sunday just to fuck around, right? Make everybody think I deal with the mystery God and play Amazing Grace on Sunday. And then you sing along and shit, you know? But the thing about it is that she was, you know, if you really study, you'll see that she was a master interpreter. And I think that the early records that she has, they cannot be thrown away because they're so important to developing her ability to be that interpreter. She can't, I don't think that she could just come and sing Respect off the bat if she didn't have so much practice with those other albums. See, what I'm saying is, with today's R&B singer, they don't want an R&B singer. They want someone that is already appealing, and they'll just use auto-tunes. R&B and soul music is totally dead. So think about Aretha. There's at least 7 albums, 6, almost 10 albums she makes before she blows up. Do you think that a sister that could sing really great would even be given that much of an opportunity to be A&R that long before they say, yo, we keep up with you? that another label wouldn't even mess with you. Because if you say like the argument, like, she left Columbia, then went to the label, and then she made that with Jerry Wexler and all them. But another label wouldn't mess with you like that big after all of that. So it's one of my biggest thing I was bothered by, and I love it, but I was bothered that it's not it only. That a lot of hip hop people paid homage to Aretha by saying, these are the songs that sampled Aretha that I love. That's not what makes Aretha such a legend to just people that love hip hop. What makes her a legend is that she was able to express all the emotions and the gamut of emotions as powerfully as possible through a whole spectrum of sounds and songs. Because one thing is that we look at Aretha's wailing and her power, but people forget that she could interpret a song at the subtle moments too, you know? That's why I mentioned I Say a Little Prayer or Call Me. If you ever hear Call Me, she's not yelling through that song. And it's sang perfectly on the dime. It's like, it's sensual, it's perfect. And these are things that I feel like black music and black singing, especially from the black woman, the crossover market, the other man, they love to see the exploitation of the power of the black woman's voice, that they don't respect its detail. You know what I'm saying? They never respected the detail that Sarah Vaughan put into records. They just respected the octaves and how high she could go and how fluidly she could go into them. The same thing with Aretha. We respect the wails, but it's really the details of the songs that makes it so brilliant. You know what I mean? And, you know, with that said, I don't know if I say she's the GOAT vocalist, but she's easily a GOAT candidate and could be labeled the GOAT, and there's an absolute argument to make for her. But Remembered Imperfection, there's at least every single 70s album she recorded, and everything from 1967 to 1979, you should just buy. Every album. That's the advice. Buy every single album from that era. And then I would go backward, then go forward into the 80s. That's how I would collect, you know? But because I always deal with art on art, I want to end this show with a piece, though, because it kind of deals with the realness. It deals with all these concepts. And as you finish the show and go into your Aretha catalog, if you have one, if you're not, you go get one. This is a piece I called That Real Receipt. I said, we will rain receipts, purchase prices, and buy payments to be in this competition. A circle of smugness, attack with unmatched vigor. Damn, the cipher of these capitalists we return be a flush of flesh aired. In this world where cops rob and thieves cop, we need to listen to the talk, text, a legendary pimp funnels. All the fiscals out of the contradictions and smiles and blasphemy as he juggles hypocrisies being the sprout of the bloody flower. It's because vengeance is just a fast, rebellious dominance, an uncle to the slow revolutionary perseverance. Now then, let's corner this rebel with camera volumes to max to hear the beats in the act of revenge and see the smooth sermons serving justice. To be left blunted by the stylistic shield and slayed by a sword of arrogant defiance. The Real's Receipt. But with that said, I want to say again, Remembered Imperfection of Aretha Franklin, a legend. By the way, also there's a great book on Aretha called Respect, written by David Ritz, and that's available. And you know what? If you know, because I love Aretha, if you email me now, if you email me what hearing the show about Aretha, I'll send you that book, you know. But at Sunez97 at gmail.com, I'll send you that book. But with that said, until next time, there'll be a lot more stories to tell, writings to recite, and records to rewind and reminisce. Remembered Imperfection, Aretha Franklin. I'm your host, Sunez, and as always, the Power Right Show is a never respect fake broadcast. Peace.